Hey everybody, this is Peter with Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today I'm coming to you with a board game review. And today's game is Mini Rogue by Paolo Di Stefano and Gabriele Gendron, published by Nuts Publishing. This is a game that started off in 2016 as a print and play game. So it was free out there for people to download, print out, cut up the little cards, and then play the game. But they got a Kickstarter and they were able to publish a very, very nice miniature version of this game. It's a mini game, so it's meant to be small. It fits in this nice little box. And we're going to get a chance to dive into it, take a look about how the game is played, and show you all the pieces that come with it. And then afterwards, we'll come back up and I will tell you my thoughts on the game after having played it a couple of times. So let's go ahead and let's head down to the table, take a look at everything that comes in Mini Rogue. All right, everybody, this is what you are going to find when you open up your box of Mini Rogue. You're going to get your rule book. You're going to get two quick cheat sheets that kind of go over some of the icons that are in the game, what each of those mean. It tells you how to set up the game, the turn sequence, which is broken up into a preparation phase, an exploration phase, and a delving phase. It has your dungeon map in here as well, where you'll be keeping track of which floor and which area of the dungeon your character is exploring at the time, as well as these red blocks over here are going to be where you keep track of the monster hit points as you have combat with the monsters in the dungeon. Down here, we have our additional quest. Looks like almost like a little cup coaster, and on it it says at the start of a new game you can roll a die to determine which quest has been assigned to you, and once the quest is completed, gain 4 experience points. There are different things in here that you need to do. Once you have done them, then again you get to get those 4 experience points, but you're only going to be having 1 additional quest per run. You're also going to find your character tokens and your character cards. There are 4 characters in the base set, so you have 4 tokens and 4 cards for your 4 characters. You also have your character play sheet here, where you'll be keeping track of your character's experience points, their armor, their food, hit points, and gold, and even potions that they may be carrying throughout the game. There's also then a ghost and treasure card. This is dual-sided, and you will know which side you need to use depending on what the dungeon tile tells you to do. There are also boss cards in here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. One of them that will always show up in every run that you play is Ogg's Remains. Ogg's Remains is the main big boss of the game. You are trying to get Ogg's ruby jewel here, and that is the main goal of the game. So you'll always go up against Ogg's Remains, and then there will always be 3 other bosses that you will be going up against as well. Then there are all of the room tiles. There are quite a few of these, you will see. And you're going to be shuffling those quite often throughout the game, because each area you go into is going to have a total of 8 rooms and 1 exit. So you will have you'll be shuffling those, you'll be laying them out. At the end of the exploration phase, when you go into the delving phase, you'll gather all those cards back up, the ones that you have explored and the ones that you skipped. You'll shuffle those back into the discards, and you'll lay out another 8 cards to explore. Some of them will then end up being repeated every so often, depending on just the luck of the draw, and some of them will not show up very often at all. So you're going to get a different experience each time you play. You also have a couple extra little meeples over here if you would rather use a meeple rather than a character token to keep track of yourself on the cards. And then you have a variety of colors here of wooden cubes. Those you're going to use, again, to track your experience points, your hit points, your gold, where you're at in the dungeon. And each color has a specific place to put them. Now, beyond all of those things, the last thing we have are our dice. And the dice are pretty interesting. We have the white character dice, the black dungeon dice, the green poison dice, and the purple cursed dice. And as you play through the game, you're going to start off as a level 1 character, meaning you get 1 white die and you have 1 black die. The white die is your character die, the black die is the dungeon die. And as you play the game, you're going to need to make skill checks to try to succeed in each of these different rooms. You'll roll the white cube to see if you succeed, and a success is when you roll a 5 or a 6. And again, they give you this nice little star shapes around your numbers to help you to remind you what is a success or not. And then beyond that, there is the X on this white cube as well, which just means you miss automatically. When it comes to a skill check, you need a 5 or a 6 to successfully make a skill check. During combat, you can roll a 5, a 6, a 2, 3, or 4, and that's still okay because that means you're going to be doing some damage to the monster you're fighting. But the good thing about the 6 in combat is it's a critical hit, which means you can actually re-roll this die again to try to do more damage. But you're always taking the chance that you might roll the X. If you do, it takes away all of your attack points and you do not hit the monster for any hits. The dungeon die, when it comes to skill checks, you will roll both of these together. If you roll a 5 or a 6 and you succeed, then the number on the dungeon die tells you what you gain. You might gain extra experience points. You might gain food, which is going to help you delve further into the dungeon, because if you don't have food, you begin to starve. Might give you gold, which helps you to gain more items later when you run into merchants in the dungeon. You can spend the gold to gain items. It might give you armor or hit points. But if on your skill check you roll an X or a 2, 3, or 4, you fail. And the dungeon die at that point tells you what happens to you. Usually that means you're going to probably lose some hit points. You might lose some experience points, which would really stink. Or you might even fall through the floor of the dungeon to a lower portion of the dungeon, and your character might be still really low level, and they might not be ready for the monsters that they will face in those lower portions of the dungeon. So all sorts of good and bad things can happen to you in this game, whether you succeed on your skill checks or not. Like I was saying, when it comes down to combat, you will be rolling these same dice again. 5 and a 6. Our 6 is actually the one that you really want, is that critical hit. But a 2, 3, 4, or 5, they can still do damage. It's just not doing that much damage to the creature. The black die, when you roll, you do not kill the monster. The black die is how much damage the monster is going to be doing to you. The 1 is a critical miss for the monster. 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 on the monster is going to be doing some damage. And again, the 6 is going to get pretty nasty probably. So those are the different dice there. The poison and the curse dice will come up if your character throughout the game ever gets cursed or poisoned. If you are cursed or poisoned, then you have to add these die to your rolls. So yes, so you are going to roll the poison die and the curse die if your character becomes cursed or poisoned. And if you roll on the symbol, then you start to take some damage. If you roll on the blank side, then nothing bad happens to you on that turn. But as long as you are poisoned or cursed, you will continue to have to roll these dice in addition to your other dice. And there are potions and things that will help you get rid of the cursed and poisoned effect. And so you will want to look for those opportunities as you play the game. So as I was saying earlier, when you go to actually play the game, you're going to be shuffling up your room cards. You're going to lay out a grid of 3 by 3. So you're going to have a total of 9 cards. 8 of them are going to be room cards. 1 of them is going to be an exit card. Unless you are on a portion of the dungeon that has one of these red circles with a skull in it. There's going to be 1 on each floor of the dungeon. If you're on that floor, the exit is no longer an exit. It is a boss that you must battle. And there are, like I said, 5 bosses in the game, with 4 that you're going to face when you do your run. And the last one is always going to be Og's Remains. He will always be the last boss in the dungeon. So there's lots of really good stuff in this game, everybody. It is a roguelike game where when you die, the game is over. As you go through, if you gain experience points, your character can become a higher level character. And when you become a higher level character, you gain extra character dice. You can get up to 3 character dice as a level 3 character. And again, what that's doing is that's giving you a better chance of success and also a better chance of critical hits in combat and the more damage you can deal out. There are, like I was saying, different classes, different characters that you can play in the game. You have a priestess, you have a mage, you have a crusader, and a rogue. And then if you want to, there is a variant using combat stances, and you can decide what kind of stance you are taking when in combat. I've not actually played with those yet, but it's just one of the variants that you can use in this game. Now, playing through this game, I have come into most of the rules really do make a lot of sense. I have run into one spot though when I was playing that told me I was going through a room and I ran into a swarm of rats, and that swarm of rats actually did negative the floor I was on. It took that much food from my character. So whenever the swarm of rats shows up, they're going to try to take all of your food from you. Well, I didn't have any food on my character anyway. And so I was on the 3rd floor, and they were going to take -3 food from my character. And so at that point, the way that the game tells it is at the end of each of these floors, or at the end of each of these areas, when you go through the dungeon delving phase, if you don't have food to eat, then you lose 3 hit points. Well, I took that to also mean that if I'm supposed to ever give up food and I don't have it, then I'm still taking those 3 hit points and losing them. And at that point, when I was facing that swarm of rats, I was supposed to give up 3 pieces of food. I had 0 food. I took that to mean I took 9 damage, and my level 17 mage died to a swarm of rats. So that's just one quick example of the way this game can escalate depending on what is happening in each of the rooms. There's lots of different types of rooms in this game. I'll show you a couple of them. There is the shrine, where as you go, you are going to roll your dungeon die, and you're going to see what happens to you in the dungeon. This one is pretty interesting, though. It does give you the opportunity to spend some gold, and if you do, then you are allowed to possibly adjust the die number by 1 up or down. There's the empty shelter, which is automatically going to bring your health up to 10 if it's been below 10. And then you're going to be rolling a skill check, and you're going to try to see if you can, what you find when you roll in the empty shelter. It could be something helpful, like a potion, or it could be a trap that you run into and you lose health. There are merchants where you can trade goods. There's an armory where you have the chance to find some weapons to fight with. They will give you feats in combat. There are the most deadly of deadly traps in this game. All sorts of bad traps. There's corridors, there's treasure rooms. You might run into a hermit where you have 3 different options. You can help the hermit, you could share a meal, or you could go tunneling as well. There's the bonfire, which is another card that gives you some nice options. Those are the ones that you want to find. They're going to give you the ability to hone your weapon and gain some experience, or search for food and gain a food, or rest and get a couple hit points back. But there is card after card after card, each one bringing in different things. You have monster cards. The interesting part about monster cards is that the monster cards actually level with you. It's kind of hard to see here on the video, but depending on what floor you are in, tells you what kind of monster you are facing, how many hit points they have, how much damage they do to you if they hit you, and then they also how much reward you get, or what type of reward you get if you defeat them. And there's all sorts of monsters in the game as well. So lots of really, really good things in this game, lots of really, really bad things in this game. And if you like roguelikes, I think you're going to like this one. There's a lot of stuff happening in this small, tiny box, and I hope you get the chance to play it. Now that we've taken a look at what is in the box and a little bit of how the game plays, let's go back up to the table from the table, and I will tell you my thoughts on Mini Rogue. Okay, everybody, so that is Mini Rogue by Paulo Di Stefano and Gabriel Gendron, published by Nuts Publishing. Everybody, this is a really good game. I like it a lot. I've played the game now, like I told you a couple of times. I've lost every time, and that does not take away from the joy of playing it, at least not for me. If you like the roguelike structure, you're used to the idea that your character dies, you start over, and you try to do better the next time with the information that you gain from the last playthrough. So dying in this, it's not the end. You're going to keep on play with a different class or character, and try to win the next time. I've gotten really close to winning, and I've died really early on, and it's a bit swingy, but again, I think that's the fun part of it. It's enjoyable. There's a little bit of a gambling to it when you see the two rooms, and maybe the two rooms, neither of them are great options, or one of them's definitely the easier option, but the other one's going to get you a better reward, so you risk a little bit. I like it a lot. I think it's a great game. I think that they've done a wonderful job putting it together. All of the pieces are really well done. A lot of them are just like little wooden cubes, but I don't mind little wooden cubes. I think they're nice. I think they did a good job with them. The little dice are great. Now, the game does say that it's going to play in about 30 minutes. For me, it's been closer to about 60 minutes, but that's because when I went through my playthrough, I actually took the time to take down notes. What character was I playing as, and what floor was I on, what area was I in, what rooms did I visit when I went through that area, did I succeed or did I fail, what was the outcome of each of the rooms that I went through. So it took me a little bit longer, but it's fun now being able to go back and look at my notes and see what I did, see how well it turned out for me or how not well it turned out for me. But this is a small game in a little teeny box, but it is so much fun, and you're going to get so many playthroughs of this game, and each one is going to be just a little bit more different and a little bit more different, because again, you've got all the different classes that you can play as, and you never know exactly which rooms are going to show up and when, which bosses you're going to have to fight. Every game is going to be different. I think it can be a lot of fun. I think you would enjoy it. If you want to play the 2-player variant, it has that. If you want to play the campaign mode, it's got that. I can't wait to check the campaign mode out myself. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, Mini Rogue by Nuts Publishing and Paulo Di Stefano and Gabriel Gendron. I think you all should definitely check it out. Get online, find this game, see for yourself. Now you can check out tabletopgamingguild.com to hear our podcast, see our other reviews of board games out there. You can like and subscribe to this video and maybe subscribe to our YouTube channel. And it's been a lot of fun checking out this game. It's been a lot of fun getting to show the game off to you all. So until we talk again, everybody, keep on playing games.